Stop complicating fat loss. There is no secret, there is no hack, there is no magic diet. If there was, I promise you, look at me, I promise you, pinky swear dude, I would have told you about it. But there isn't. You want to lose fat, right? There's just one thing I have to say to you, one equation. You know where I'm going with this. And yes, I know that you've already heard that a million times, but you're still here watching another video on how to lose fat. If you're just here to support me, I appreciate you, dude. But for all the rest of you, yes, I am going to restate the obvious, and no, I'm not going to feel bad about it. Okay, before we begin, a quick side note. Get your act together, man. If this is one of the first few videos on fat loss you're watching, that's good. You need that knowledge. But if you've been watching these videos for multiple years now, if you don't even remember how many videos you've seen and what all you've learned from them, this is not the only thing you want in your life, right? There's so much more you want to do, so much more you want to accomplish other than low body fat. Okay, I get that it's not entirely your fault. There are new fads and new diets popping up every single day, and each one of them is labeled the solution to fat loss, the holy grail to fat loss. But what you need to understand is that most of these diets and fads are not even intended to really help you out. They're made because creators need to make their money. I'll be honest with you, I saw quite a few of these videos yesterday. I wanted to see what other people are preaching, what they are teaching you, before I made my video. And I'll just say, they do not give a fuck what they're talking about. They do not give a fuck how inaccurate their information is. As long as it sounds catchy and as long as it looks clickbaity, they don't give a fuck. What I want you to take away from this video is that fat loss is not rocket science. And it's not something that you need to be watching videos on every other day. I want you to understand that this is something you just need to understand the fundamentals of. You just need to understand the basics, because that's all there is to it. There are simple laws of physics and laws of biology that your body follows. There are no secrets, no hacks, no ways to trick your body. Everything I say in this video is going to sound so logical, so rational, so obvious. By the end of the video, you'll go, of course it's this way, of course this is true, of course. Hey, you'll see, dude, you'll see in the next 10-15 minutes. Before we begin, one question for you. What are calories? After the hundreds of videos you've seen on fat loss, you better know this one. Okay, I'm sure you do, I know that you do, but just for my peace of mind, just for my sake, let me tell you anyway. See, a calorie is a measure of energy, just like a meter is a measure of distance. So you wouldn't be wrong to say that a meter is distance. Similarly, you wouldn't be wrong to say that a calorie is literally energy. So far, so good? Okay, question number 2. I promise this is the last one. Don't worry, this is not a classroom lecture. Just something for you to think about for a second before we dive deep into this. So question number 2. Why do we get fat? Fat is arguably the greatest problem of today's generation, right? Everybody wants to lose fat, everybody wants to get thinner. So then why is our body punishing us by making us fat? Let me answer that question with a statistic. Today, 25,000 people die of hunger every single day. I'm talking about today, like on the day you're watching this, in these 24 hours, 25,000 people are gonna die of hunger. And even for those of us who are fortunate to not be anywhere close to that situation, surplus food has been a reality only for about the past 100 years. For context, humans have been around for the past 300,000 years. Our DNA still remembers the thousands of years of famines and droughts our ancestors have been through. And so it is still hardwired to protect us from starving to death. And how does it do that? By literally storing excess calories or excess energy in the form of body fat. Okay, question number 3. Nah, dude, I'm kidding, relax. Coming back to what I talked about initially, the thing that you've already heard a million times, the equation, calories in versus calories out. Cement this in your brain that as far as fat loss is considered, these are the only 2 things that matter. Let's go a little deeper. Calories in consists of the food you eat, right? The calories that are absorbed by your body from the food that you eat is the calories in. And there's calories out. Now, calories out has a few components. Let me give you a quick, brief summary of each of them. If you're not interested in the biology, don't worry, it doesn't matter. We begin with BMR, basal metabolic rate, also known as resting metabolic rate. These are the calories that your body needs to burn just to survive. Everything from the cellular functions to the functioning of the organs requires energy, so it requires calories. So the calories burnt in that process come under basal metabolic rate. Next, we have NEAT, which stands for come on, we prepared for this one. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Okay, so this basically constitutes the involuntary movements that you do, from restless leg syndrome, I think, to just fidgeting, to whatever involuntary movements you're doing, the energy that's burnt in that. Next, we have exercise, which I think is self-explanatory. Now, this is the one that is the most influenceable. This is the one that is the most variable depending on how much of a lazy fuck you are. And finally, we have TEF, which is thermal effect of food. So there's not much to go on over here. Just know that different foods require different amounts of energy to digest them. So for example, protein is difficult for the body to digest and absorb the protein from, so it takes the body more calories or energy to absorb that protein. When this side of the equation is higher, you're in a caloric surplus, and when this side is higher, you're in a caloric deficit. Now let's get to why all of this is important. See, any diet that supposedly apparently helps you lose weight, try to understand this, okay? You just need to use this much of your brain, and I've realized this is the case for most things. Just use this much of your logic and rationality and you debunk most myths. I cannot believe I need to say this, but things cannot just happen. Magic does not just happen in your body, dude. There are laws of physics, there are laws of biology. Everything fat loss related is 100% determined by these two equations. Any diet that is supposed to help you lose weight has to impact one of these two equations. For example, high protein diets. Why are high protein diets so popular? Why are they actually, high protein diets are known to have some of the best effects diet wise when you're comparing different diets. Why is that? Because protein is satiating. When you're eating more protein, you will automatically eat lesser calories overall, so your calories in portion is automatically reduced. Additionally, like I just talked about, protein is difficult for the body to digest, so it takes the body more calories to be able to absorb the protein from the food that you're eating. So TEF goes up, calories in goes down, so the net effect is a caloric deficit. Speaking of protein, let's talk about one of the most common, one of the most popular myths in the fitness industry. You watching this, you probably believe it, that you cannot gain fat from protein. Yes, it is a myth. I know the ground just shook from underneath you. Your entire worldview has been challenged. You don't know what to believe anymore. Tell me about it, dude. I experienced the exact fucking same thing, okay? All these dumb fucks spreading false information all over the internet. Calm down, Sahaj. I am not even gonna waste my breath on this one, dude. What did I just say? Gotta use this much of our brains, this much of logic, this much of rationality. Are you ready? Let's go. Think back to your ancestors for a second. What did they primarily survive on? Animals, right? We killed animals and we ate them, which I hope you know are pure prime protein. Like, animals are the most dense, the most pure form of protein there is. So are you saying that that very DNA in our bodies that has seen thousands of years of famines and droughts and lack of food for long periods of time, that very DNA that is programmed to save you from starving to death, it's gonna say, I would really like to store some fat right now because we don't know when the next meal is going to come. The next meal comes when we kill the next animal. So we don't know when or where the next meal is going to come from. And so for that, I would really like to store some of the excess energy that we've consumed. But because it's protein, let me not store it and let me just piss it all out. If there's one thing you take away from this video, let it be this. The human body is extremely flexible in terms of the fuels it can use, and it will base its preference on availability. In other words, your body is not dumb. You cannot fool it, you cannot trick it. From everything that we've just talked about, I think it's safe to conclude that the idea that the type of calories that we consume are more important than, or even as important as, the quantity of the calories themselves is completely, utterly, absolutely false. Yes, that means that if you ate a whole pizza for the entire day versus if you ate large portions of 3 healthy home-cooked meals, breakfast, lunch and dinner, you would be in a much better position fat loss-wise eating the pizza. I speak from personal experience over here. See, I was the biggest foodie ever since I can remember, ever since a little kid. I loved, that doesn't even do it justice, I lived for pizzas and burgers and lasagnas and rolls and Mughalai food, oh my god. But of course there were restrictions as to how often I could eat out when I was living at home. So when I went to college, it was fucking paradise, dude. I lived in a hostel and the food was not bad at all, but I had to fulfill my fantasies, right? I had to live them out. So I must have ate at the hostel like 5-10 times maximum throughout the course of an entire year. So I'm not exaggerating, I'm not kidding when I say I ate out every single day. Now the problem was that I didn't get nearly enough pocket money to be eating out 2-3 times a day. You know what? Now that I think about it, I think I got just about exactly enough to be eating out 2 meals a day. But when more than half of your budget is pre-allocated for drugs and alcohol, that makes it a little difficult, to say the least. So over time, I got used to eating like 1 meal a day on most days. Every single day I ate McDonald's or KFC or Domino's or Pizza Hut or Burger King. Okay, to be honest, I didn't really like Burger King, but it's damn fucking cheap, dude. Yo, shout out to Burger King, man. Like, for me at least, the last few days of every month were pre-allocated for Burger King every single time. I think I've painted a good enough picture of my college days. Now check out this picture. This is me about a year into that diet. That photo of mine on the right in the thumbnail of this video, that is me after I'd come back home and bulked for a few months. This is not what comes to mind when you think daily McDonald's, is it? Well, that seemed to work out pretty good for me, so would I recommend you do the same? No, of course not. You probably saw that coming a mile away. But I think the more important question here is why? Why do I recommend not taking my approach? Full disclosure, this entire portion was almost not going to be in the video. I was just going to take everything we've talked about up to this point and added a good conclusion to the end of it. I was about to scrap this entire portion because of how controversial it is about to get. But at the same time, I realized that this is the part that would have been the most helpful for younger Sahaj. This is the part that would have helped something click in his brain and changed his entire approach towards dieting. So here goes. Coming back to the question of why would I not recommend you take my approach? Before I answer that, one question for you. What is junk food? Don't just sit there waiting for me to say something next. You've seen so many videos on fat loss, on dieting, on the entire subject. You should be able to answer this. Pause this video for a second and try to come up with an answer. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that you probably have an unhealthy relationship with junk food. You've heard all of these things about it. You've heard that it's extremely unhealthy for you. You've heard that it's the common enemy and that we are all on a mission to save ourselves from it. That it's made by these multi-billion-dollar companies that just want to make you unhealthy, that just want to poison you. But you don't understand what it is about junk food that makes it so bad. Why is it so unhealthy for you? Why is it so bad for you? I want to help repair your relationship. I'm not saying that you become lovers and start meeting in secret every other night, but what I'm saying is that when you cross paths, you're bound to cross paths at some point or the other, at a family event, at social gatherings, when you're out with friends. At that point, I don't want it to be awkward between you two. I want you two to be okay with each other. Well, if you know anything about relationships, you know that no healthy relationship can be based on anything but the truth. So here I am to share the truth with you. Let's turn to Google for the truth. Google defines junk food as food that is high in calories, but low on fiber, protein, vitamins, minerals, and other forms of nutritional value. Wait, what? No mention of evil corporations or poison or a secret ingredient that is going to make you fat? What is the single worst thing about junk food? That it is so fucking tasty. I am not even kidding, which is closely followed by the fact that it is extremely low in satiety, much lower compared to its healthier counterparts. Now, these two factors combine to form a deadly combination that all but guarantees that you will overconsume calories. And what is the one thing we've learned from this entire video? What is the single worst thing you can do for your body, for your fat loss? Overconsume calories. This is the worst thing about junk food. Not that there's a secret ingredient in it which is supposed to make you unhealthy, or that it's going to kill you, or that there's poison in it. None of that. The worst thing about junk food is that it makes it much more likely for you to overeat, for you to overconsume calories. Let me just put it this way. If there are two meals in front of you, one of them is fast food, a burger or a pizza or something, and one of them is healthy, homemade, home cooked food, you're 90% more likely to overconsume when you're eating junk food. I don't know why there is this trend of misinforming the public. What have we done with drugs? What have we told children about drugs? That drugs will kill you, that you just take drugs one time and you go crazy, you completely lose your mind, you're never the same again, you'll jump off of your 10th floor balcony the first time you take drugs. Why not be honest about the recreational part of it, as well as the downsides, the all too real downsides and the problems with it? And what we've done with junk food is no different. We've taken the exact same approach with junk food. Bro, you go to an online fat loss community and you'll see people talking about junk food as if it were the devil himself reincarnated, as if junk food is everything that is wrong with the world. Coming back to the factors of junk food for a second. Number one, that it's extremely fucking tasty. Number two, that it is low in satiety. Now, as if this deadly combination wasn't enough to make it nearly impossible for us to be able to resist it, that we added the third component of social stigma. Here's another question for you. How do you react every time you see a fat guy sitting in McDonald's eating a burger? Having been that fat guy myself, I'll tell you, first of all, that if you are trying to hide it, you're not doing a good job at it. And secondly, I'm gonna ask you to fucking stop, man. As if it wasn't hard enough, as if I didn't have an internal battle with myself before walking into that McDonald's, to only have you come and fucking shame me now. This is exactly what I'm talking about. See, as long as you see food as black and white, as healthy and unhealthy, as good and bad, every time you try to diet, every time you try to lose a little fat, you're going to tell yourself, you're going to promise yourself that you're not going to eat this kind of food, this food that you fucking relish, that you love, that you really like to have. You're never going to eat it again. You're never even going to see it. Now, that is going to work, but only for so long, right? At some point, you are going to go out and have the option of having junk food, or sometimes you'll get fucking sick of eating your healthy food and you'll want to have a bite outside. What happens then? Let me give you an example. Let's bring back Andrew. It's been a while since we've talked about him. So, well, here's Andrew. Today morning, Andrew looked at himself in the mirror and realized that he needed to lose a few pounds, or 20, and decided to go on a diet. Andrew is motivated. He's promised himself that he's never again going to even look at unhealthy food, and that from today onwards, he's only going to eat healthy, home-cooked food. And that he's going to practice portion control, because even Andrew realizes that that's the most important part. Andrew manages to stay true to his promise for the entire week. But it's the weekend now. Weekends get the best of us, man. By now, Andrew is sick and tired of eating healthy every day, and he decides to have a cheat day. But he feels guilty for breaking his promise. He feels guilty for eating unhealthy. And in that moment of guilt, in that moment of depression, ends up overindulging. Because you've adopted such a black and white approach to food, you think that you can only lose weight by eating this kind of food, and as soon as you eat this kind of food, you've made a mistake, you have relapsed. So now, when you finally inevitably come across this food, the words cognitive restraint and portion control are going to be the last things on your mind. You're going to be feeling so ashamed, so guilty of the food in front of you that you're going to mindlessly binge. Tell me that this has not happened to you, that after a week or two of eating healthy, when you finally go out and have some junk food, you overindulge, you overeat to the point that you're barely able to stand after that. It hurts, that your stomach hurts after that. That should never happen. When that happens, just know that you've overshot the maximum calories you should have eaten for that meal by hundreds, by several hundreds. Now, let's look at an alternate approach we could have taken over here. If you realized that there is no good food, there is no bad food, that things aren't as black and white as that there is just food with different amounts of calories, you could easily account for a junk meal, right? You figure out the total calories that you can eat in that day, and you figure out the amount of calories you will be consuming in that meal. You just remove those calories, and the rest of the day you only eat the amount of calories you have left. So you're not only not feeling guilty and miserable and sad about eating junk food, but you're also at the same time continuing to make progress towards your goal of fat loss. Because you're not mindlessly consuming and overeating hundreds of calories in your junk meal. Instead, you're being smart about it. You plan it all out. You subtract the calories that will be in the junk meal from the total calories you can consume in the day, which you've calculated. Fuck, by the way, this is something I really wanted to talk about in this video, but it's already gone on for way too long. I'll definitely have to make another video on this. Stay tuned for that. Coming back to what we were talking about, now you understand, dude. Now you see the two ways you can go about it, and you've probably gone the former way for most of your life. So have I. But now you see this other option that makes a lot of sense, right? For those of you who are still on the fence about what I've said in the last few minutes, let me conclude this video with the conclusion that I've gathered from most of the researches I've seen about the impacts of healthy and junk food on the body. Any downsides, any disadvantages, any harmful effects of processed food, of junk food, are far, far, far outweighed by the disadvantages, by the downsides, by the harmful effects of body fat. So, in conclusion, what I'm saying is that if eating out every now and then is going to help you adhere to your diet in the long term and lose fat in the long term, with the added benefit of not making you feel miserable about eating the same damn thing every single day, I would say that's a win-win. I would say that that's 100%, without question, without doubt, worth it. In fact, I would go to the extent of saying that I urge you to take that approach. I wish you all the best on your fat loss journey, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.